Hey friendly neighbors, this is the first video in a series I'm calling Missing Class because I kind of felt like there was a class missing when I was in middle school and junior high and high school that not only taught me practical real world stuff that I would need to use in life to make my life better, but also how the experiences I was having in my teen years would shape the girl I become in my adult life. As a teen, I was shown every day and I was told every day that I was garbage. I was bullied, I was abused, I was neglected, and all of this made me feel unworthy and like I didn't deserve what normal people had. Now, at this point, I'm glad I'm not a normal people. I'm glad that my life is not normal at all. I'm much happier not being sort of average and fitting into this box that society told me I needed to in order for my life to matter. But at the time, all I wanted to do was fit in and like be normal and have the things everyone else had and be able to do the things everyone else did. I just didn't feel like I was worthy. So even though I had done a lot of work in my adult years, I was still at a point where I didn't feel worthy, and I still kind of felt like that garbage kid and like I didn't deserve what other people had when I met my ex-fiance. And he is ex, and this is the first time I've really spoken about it or posted about it or anything. I was engaged, some of you might remember, and maybe some of you assumed that I got married at this point, but I didn't. I broke off my engagement. And I want to tell you why, because I'm hoping it'll help you in a way where you can sort of examine your own relationships and also just look at your own health and wellness as well. So when I met my ex-fiance, he was clearly in pain. He was very angry and lashing out, and you never knew when his temper would be set off. And he was sort of one of those people who kind of blame everyone else and everything else for their circumstances. You know, those very negative people who are always like pointing a finger this way instead of this way. He just had this resistance to therapy, which I feel like is a resistance to improvement, and didn't think anything was wrong. And I, of course, feeling still like the garbage kid, was kind of like a dumpster. Like I would just allow him to verbal vomit at me for hours about all of the things he hated about his life and the world. And I just thought that was my job. I thought it was my job to sit there and take that verbal abuse because I didn't feel worthy of anything else, anything different. I didn't think I deserved anything better. And all I wanted to do when I saw his pain is take that pain away. And that, of course, comes from my background, having so much pain myself. Now my purpose in life is to really reduce that pain as much as I can for other people, kind of helping people feel less alone and doing what I can with random acts of kindness and just being a friendly neighbor. But then also, I think women do have just this very nurturing side where we see someone in pain and we want to help and we want to make them feel better and we want to fix things. So what happened eventually is that all of this sort of taking on that pain and anger and negative energy caused me to become sick. I mean, it literally made me sick. Emotional trauma manifests as physical symptoms. A couple months after we met, I started getting migraines. I had never had migraines before. They were so bad. When I had a migraine, I couldn't do anything for the day. It was so painful. All I could do is like close my eyes and just hope it went away. I didn't know. So eventually I went to my doctor and I got medication for it, but the medication really knocked me out. So days when I got migraines, I either was just in pain all day or I was knocked out by the medication. And sometimes I would get 6 or more migraines a month. So I would lose all of these days. I ended up losing days, adding up to weeks, adding up to months of my life from these migraines. And the 3 different doctors I went to gave me 3 different reasons for them. But it was so weird because like all of a sudden this is happening to me, and how can I make them go away? Like I just knew that there was something else was going on other than the reasons these doctors were giving me, even though they were all logical reasons. There was one weekend early on when I got a migraine. I was over at his house, and it was one of my first migraines before I had my medication, so I didn't know what to do, and all I could do was like sit there and just close my eyes and try not to throw up and try to just keep my eyes open, you know, here and there, so I wouldn't be sleeping all day, because he kept asking like, well, are we gonna go do this? Well, are we gonna go do that? And I just felt so sick and horrible that I couldn't do anything. He had to take me home. And when he took me home, he said, weekends when you come over aren't fun anymore. You shouldn't come over anymore. And he was like mad. At the time, a friend of mine said, that's abusive. He's verbally abusing you. And of course, he had been all along, right, with the torrents of anger and negativity and complaining and everything else. But again, I just thought it was my job to make him happy, as if you can make someone happy. Of course you can't. Of course, he needed to be happy on his own first and love himself first before he could be in a healthy relationship. That's true for anyone. But I didn't really understand that fully at the time. A couple months before I broke up with him, I woke up at 3 a.m. and I didn't know where the floor was. That's the only way I can explain it. I was in bed here. I woke up at 3 and the room was like spinning in all these crazy directions. I wanted to get out of bed, but I didn't know where to put my foot because I did not know where the floor was. When something is wrong, your body whispers, and when you don't listen, it talks. And when you don't listen, it screams, and if you still don't listen, it knocks you over so hard, you don't know where the floor is. So I found out I had vertigo, and my doctor again gave me a logical explanation as to why. I had vertigo on and off for about 2 months. The day I broke up with him, the vertigo went away and it never came back. And the migraines went away and they never came back. And I had had migraines for almost 5 years during that entire relationship, and I didn't realize. It took me so long to understand what was going on. But both of those severe physical symptoms disappeared the day I broke up with him. One of my favorite contemporary philosophers is Alain de Botton, and he says, when we look for a partner, we look for familiar pain from our past. And I just think that's so true, because like when you're with somebody you love and there's all these good things about them and you're like, no, but like he's so funny and he's so interesting and he's so cute and he, you know, you list all of these things that you like about the person. Obviously there are good things or you would not be there. But the good things don't matter if the bad things are harmful. So in this case, I was creating all of this meaning, like these things we have in common and things from our past that were similar, and just like sort of creating this situation to be something bigger than it was. I do feel like if he was in a different place, emotionally, mentally, if he was in a place where he did love himself and he was happy and not looking for external factors to make him happy, perhaps the relationship would have ended differently, right? Maybe we would have gotten married and we would have been fine. But that is not something I wanted to risk finding out, knowing that he was relying on me for his happiness. He never wanted to be alone. If I wanted to go to the gym, he felt jealous. Like, why aren't you spending time with me? If I wanted to hang out with my friends, he felt jealous. Like, why aren't you spending time with me? Now, I introduced him to all of my friends. He didn't have any friends. He had one friend. I have a lot of friends, and my friends are like my family. They're really important to me. So after I took the time to introduce him to everyone, and then he still said, when I was talking about my friends, oh, I don't know who any of those people are. Like, sort of showing his jealousy and showing his dissatisfaction with his own life, that he didn't have any friends. Like, I was texting a friend one day and like laughing at what they said, and as soon as I laughed, he's like, what's so funny? And then he's like, I wish I had a friend to text. And like, you know, it was just this kind of, my life was sort of shining a spotlight on things he felt were deficient with his life. Now, there was no reason he couldn't go to the gym, he couldn't find friends, he couldn't do the things to improve his health and wellness that I was doing. He just didn't want to. And so when I did those things, it made him feel worse about himself. And the thing with miserable people is, miserable people love to surround themselves with other miserable people, because that makes them feel less alone and that makes them feel understood. So if you've ever had a friend where like you both are sort of in a bad place in your life, and maybe even that's why you started to become friends in the first place, and then things are sort of going really great for you and not for them because you're actively improving your life and they're not, you'll see that jealousy and that fear in them too, because the fear is, okay, you're improving your life and doing all these things to make yourself better, but they're not. And so eventually you're going to grow and evolve in a way they're not. And that's probably going to cause the friendship to end. Some of us have more work to do than others. And I'm a person who has had to do a lot of work, and the work always continues. You never get to a point where the work is done and you're like, ta-da, because you're perfect, because we're never perfect. But one thing I want you to know is that you are worthy, and you have to learn that you are worthy by doing the work on your journey to understand that happiness is something you generate, and you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else in a healthy relationship. Being exactly who you are is so important. I felt so much pressure to be normal, to like do the things that other people told me I needed to do, instead of being exactly who I was. Then I reclaimed my life by being empowered. I just decided to take control of my destiny, because you are the architect of your own destiny and you shape who you become. So I hope some of this has been helpful, and I hope maybe some of this is relatable. And I'm going to be back with more missing class eps, and hopefully they'll be helpful too.